Is monogamy the only way to sustain a healthy relationship? That's going to be the topic of today's video. And something that I have a lot of experience with and I have a lot of opinions about. And again, my videos aren't to just... There's not a definitive answer for a lot of things. Although this one, I would argue, I'm going to be completely honest, I think has a little bit more of a definitive answer, at least in, relation to what I'm going to talk about. And that's essentially being in a ethically non-monogamous relationship where me and my ex had, other partners. Not other partners, we would, there's other girls that were part of our relationship and it was only involved with us. I think that can be a little bit less crazy and be easier to sustain, being that no one's doing things outside of the house, like everyone's involved. The main relationship is always there when other parties are involved. But again, I just want to speak from a pragmatic. Because my way, I'm not a therapist. I'm not, the reason for these videos aren't to, be, wishy-washy or to, I'm going to have an opinion and I'm going to be honest with you. And if you disagree, you can comment. And if you, agree, I'm trying to create value from my own experiences. So I don't do this often, but I know for some reason it's a very sensitive topic these days. I can't guess what the reason is, but I'll do not a spoiler, a trigger warning. So I never really do, but this is going to be a negative video about anything besides monogamy and how monogamy is, in fact, the only way to have a long-term sustainable relationship. And the one caveat to that is, not caveat, but is it's the best way to have a long-term relationship. In other words, people make it work when they do poly or they have open relationships or have any of this stuff. I don't see too many of those people lasting very long. And if they do, it's an exception to the rule. You know what I'm saying? You can take every relationship, everyone's different, everyone has their this and that, and you can take all that crap. Oh, this AC sucks. And just look pragmatically at numbers. Just numbers. I'll talk about two. This is all off the top of my head, but two smoking guns of why anything besides monogamy is doomed to fail. Number one, and this is the most just math reason why it doesn't work. And if it does work, this is to me is the number one smoking gun of why you should just be monogamous, is even if it works perfectly. And for those of you, I've been 2.5 years in non-traditional monogamy, like ethical non-monogamy, which is kind of like a, I don't know, it's like one of those sayings, it's BS kind of. I'm gonna go, fuck you. And this is the big one, is even if it's perfect, and again, it's so fun, it can be, I think we all agree, for those of you who've been in, non-monogamous relationships, that the highs are really high and the lows can be really low. But the highs are just it can be addictive, right? And you want, and it's like, feels right or whatever, but this is the thing, and I'm right, is even if it's at its best and everything's perfect, it's like, you're separating your time and attention with your main partner. The more parties you have involved, the less time you have. So you are dividing love, i.e., it is mathematically impossible to spend as much time with your main partner, with, you know, a partner. Doesn't matter if it's your main partner, doesn't matter, because I don't know what, depending on what relationship you have set up, but it's math. So you are essentially saying, by living that lifestyle, that I'm okay with giving a certain person less time and essentially loving them less and building with them less, and willing to put the relationship at risk for said other partner, because there's always going to be a risk of that. We're human beings. We have needs, and we have blind spots. So to me, that's the number one smoking gun of why it's just not worth it. I gotta think about where I gotta go to this doctor's appointment. I gotta figure out where I'm going. Okay, this way. I gotta go that way. I'm gonna be fucking late. Shit. Okay, whatever. I'll be late probably. All right. So that's number one of why it's not worth it. Just be monogamous. Maybe that'll be the title of this video. It's not worth it. Just be monogamous. Number two, and this is like, I never even tried this because in my gut or whatever, I'm a man. Like, I'm not okay with my woman doing things with other guys. Like, I think that's just a cuck move. And if you do that, I don't know how that lasts. I don't know. That just things get whatever. And that's what I'll say about number two is, like, if it's poly, and it's not ethical in monogamy, it's just like poly, like the girl can go do whatever she wants, the guy can do whatever he wants. It's not, I just think that, I'll be straight up honest, that it's just stupid. Because the woman will always be able to have endless partners. And it's especially stupid if you don't talk about it. Like, in other words, there's relationships where the guy and girl, they just go, oh, we're gonna be poly, and then, hey, do you want to let me know who you're with? It's like, I actually don't want to know. What is the point of the relationship anymore? That woman can just go out. How are you going to feel if your woman's out every night with other guys, girls, whatever, and you're at home alone? Because that's what happens. Women, especially beautiful women, can just go. And I don't, like, to pretend that's not the case is just stupid. And people like to cherry pick, which is a perfect segue into number three, which is, there's significant evidence, both anecdotally and documented. If you watch my last video, about 50% of people that are poly are narcissists, which is now my biggest video. Significant evidence, and we all know anecdotally that the people that are doing this have some trauma. We all have what shaped us in childhood. We all have our trauma, and I think it's detrimental to society to pretend that and enable people to conflate their mental disorders with their sexuality. At a certain point, if you're bipolar and your manic episode leads to disappearing for a month and doing crazy sexual stuff, and then your depression inevitably comes and leads to a even more severe level of depression, i.e. regret, shame, it's a net negative for your life. To pretend that's just what the first thing that came to my head was bipolar. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about the extremes as I do, because I feel at the extremes you can find the answers sometimes. And maybe that's my blinders, that some people are balanced and they're handling poly, and I know those people, and I think if people are going to do it, you got to be balanced. You got to be an adult. But there's so many different just dead ends. If you're an adult and you're mature, it's hard for me to get to the conclusion of why would you even want to do that? Does that make sense? Like, and then this is like I get into a whole thing with like predatory and like, because there are many people, I would argue there's more people than not in society that are still at an immaturity level they were when they're, pick your age, 12, 15, 7, and I was gonna say I'm not getting into like consent like shit, but maybe I kind of am, because if you're in a position where you have a leg up on someone and you're not helping them, you're hurting them, at what point does that become predatory and should be illegal? You know what I mean? Like, that's where it gets weird with this whole multiple partner garbage. It's not right. I don't believe it's right. And I'm the person who's talking to you right now, I am not a prude. I am not I'm not closed-minded person. I am, in fact, speaking from experience. I don't talk about topics that I am bullshitting about. These topics exist only to help people that are trying to do the work and trying to figure out, whether they got out of a bad relationship, whatever. Like, I'm here to hopefully shed a light in a way that isn't, I'm not going to blow smoke. Like, I live this life. I love the idea of being outside of society norms. I think that's the best thing about people, is arguing and trying new things and not being a cog. That is hell. But having said that, I live my life. Oh my God, this traffic's gonna kill me. Oh, fuck. I've lived it. I did it all. Like, I did it all. And it led to the worst collapse. I've never been more effed up. And I couldn't see the forest of the trees because I'd never had a breakup before. I didn't even know. And of course, it was a narcissistic abuse situation, and I didn't know what the hell exactly what that meant. But I mean, this is kind of my point. This is why I'm making these videos, guys. Like, I love Norm Macdonald's, joke about, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And then he goes, how about this? What doesn't kill you actually makes you weaker and almost killed. I love that quote, because that, to me, I look at that as the first one is like a immature person that lives off the seat of their pants, and they take all this abuse and all this pain and they use it into like strength. And although that is great, if you do have pain and you can turn it into strength, that is the best possible case, knowledge, strength. But I would argue to not have, made the bad decision and to hurt yourself or hurt others, to learn a lesson, it can be very, it's very mature. So I love looking into that from that framing, and I would argue that that's kind of what Norm meant by that. And it's immature, and I think it's even worse emotionally. There are wounds that don't heal, and it can make the world a worse place. So it's like, it might be better to not put yourself in the situation in the first place. That was a little bit of a tangent. I guess it wasn't too bad though, because it's really like, there's a lot of life. There's a lot to do in life. And then there's like, okay, so I would argue there's a lot of people in poly that are, you know, abandonment issues. And it's like, well, if you have, it just doesn't add up. If we're just talking about heterosexual relationships and poly and all this crap, it's just, it doesn't add up. Because you've got a woman that has abandonment issues, it manifests differently. Because a woman is always single. They don't have to be single. They never have to be single. While guys can be single for their whole life, and not by choice. That alone. So it's just a mess. Damn, I'm gonna be late. So I think I did like 3 reasons. Maybe that was a 4th wishy-washy one. But I'll do a 5th one now, because I think these, you know, top 5, top 7, whatever reasons are, you know, it's good to have kind of like structure. Anyway, sometimes I think out loud. So yeah, 5 is just like aging, right? Like, there's a billion reasons it doesn't work, and this is just the 5th one, but like aging. For example, aging, we'll say aging / sexual marketplace value. So as a man or woman, you have different values at different ages. This is not, you know, people talk about this and then it's like, you know, certain people don't want to hear it, and then other whatever. And, but it's just a fact, and it's biological, and it's like, as long as we're biological creatures, we have to not BS ourselves. And the fact of the matter is, at a world scale, they've done stats on, like, in every country, it ends up being the same age where a man finds a woman at her highest peak attractiveness is the age of 23 years old. Jesus. I should have went the other way. And apparently with men, it's 37. Got one more year, ladies. Look out. And so when you're dealing with like aging couples, here's an example: man and woman, 23 years old, fall in love, they're together until they're 30 years old, and they're like, let's open the relationship up. It's like, okay, great. And it's like, well, what evidently happens is, like, you know, I don't, you pick a younger woman, I don't know how that woman doesn't feel jealous of a younger woman. It's like in women's nature. It's like, and even if I would argue, even if she pretends, and it's like she's building up her husband, and it's like she's more attracted to him for a while, it's like, you're playing with fire, lady. You're playing with fire. What if he leaves you? For her, she's younger. It's in our nature. And I would argue it's playing with fire, and then I would argue that's, again, this is why men, I think, should be, we are blamed for everything, and I think that's the way it should be. It's just now things are unbalanced now, but that's a great example of why men need boundaries and need, you know, we need strong boundaries, because I'm telling you right now, if you're a guy and you're watching this video, I'm telling you, if you really love a girl and you can see yourself being with her, don't risk it with that shit, because women test you. Women, you know, and they're allowed to be children their whole lives. They're allowed to, you know, and it's kind of trendy now. I'm bi. Like, women get points. Like, I'm bi, so it's like, and then they kind of like, they can, whatever. And a lot of girls think, you know, guys like that if I say I'm bi. It's not men that like that, I would argue. It's boys. It's men that still are people that, guys who still haven't like lived out their childhood fantasy, like, oh, I want a 3-way. It's like, take it from me. It's not worth it. Unless you want chaos in your life. I mean, it is, you know, if you want a short-term thing, like, but in 2025, it's just pointless. Like, be single. Like, ultimately, these women, I would consider them like Jezebels. They're tempting you. Ultimately, somebody who's going to act like that is, you know, they want power and to feel powerful and validated, and usually not a very long-term type of situation. It's, you know, very impulsive, and I mean, that's what you think you want. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Like, and if you do that lifestyle, I think it's very important to like have a timer on it. I mean, that's what they say. Pain lives where expectation is. So if your expectations don't meet reality, that's where the pain lies. So I would very much implore anybody, the bros, if you're gonna, you know, mess around with these Jezebels, have your expectations in line, and I promise you, there's a timer to it. And that's basically that's ultimately the point of this video, is to pain management, or that sounds like drug addiction, harm reduction. I'm a harm reduction YouTuber. I saw the devil, so you don't have to. Daddy Steve here. And you know, this is the whole thing, right? Like, bad relationships, people don't, people can tell you all day that person's not good, and a lot of people choose not to listen. And it's just one of those situations, and that's what's hard, right? It's that Jezebel. It's often a really beautiful woman. Like, you can't say, that's women's power for a little while. But yeah, so back onto, monogamy versus anything else. I think it was 5. We'll end on 6. It's my lucky number. I think it was 5. It's to be convoluted. Be like, where was 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I didn't hear 4. We're on 5. We're on 6 right now. All right, 6. I think 5 was like aging, and I kind of went on a tangent, but to wrap that one up in a bun, basically. Hold on, real quick. I'm going to. Got it. I might have to cut this video short. I can't be late for this. To wrap 5 up in a bun, it's basically age and the genders. We're talking about basically heterosexual polyamory. So, men and women's value, and then I was going to get into basically how, when you get older, you just become some old thing nobody wants to fuck. And at what point is it like, yeah, I kind of should just be a good person that's dependable and loving, and you know what I mean? Like, it's a very small part of life. It's a very passionate and fun and whatever part, like relationships and sex and adventure, but it is ultimately, someone crashed their car, of course. See, this is a train. You want to get out of poly while your life is still just a car wreck, not a train wreck. So we got this car wreck here. This lady, she's got her fucking, what is she even doing? She's in the middle of traffic. She got her hood up. Her car died. Weird. All right, 6 real quick. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 was, you get old, doesn't work. 6. That's a good one for 6. I didn't even think ahead. It's easy. I'm gonna show you how dumb this thing is long term. Oh, there we go. Right away. 6, why it doesn't work, and why it's maladaptive, and why. I mean, I'm doing 6 reasons why it doesn't work, but this is, I guess, indirectly why it doesn't work. In that, long term, statistically, it's gonna do more. It statistically works less than monogamy. And what does that tell you? There's a lot more broken hearts. And what does that do for society? Makes people cynical, makes people guarded, makes people not want to be vulnerable. It makes people give up. And then you have someone in the dating pool that is unhealthy And that's where, this is a perfect number 6, is this is where I argue it's ultimately a pathology. Because if you identify as poly and you separate mental health and disorders with sexuality, you conflate them, then after a bad breakup or whatever happens, I'd argue this is most of the time with women, because guys tend to be like, we're pretty pragmatic, and we go, well, that was a dumpster fire, never doing that again, and then they set their boundaries, right? And so, for example, that's a little sexist, but this is my perspective, whatever. Yeah, it can happen the other way too. It just manifests differently. But this is why I say, like, you know, when a poly woman is like that, it can do a lot more damage, because if she's identifying as poly and she's just going through these relationships and she's like, you know, using people, I'm going. It's you're making people cynical. You're making people untrusting. And it does damage. And that's, again, why I call it a pathology. Because that's how anything works. When you're doing the work and you're healing, you have to first admit there's a problem. If you can't admit you're a part of the problem, there's no incentive to change. If there's no incentive to change, you're going to continue being poly and effing up people's brains and their hearts and their souls. And this guy's walking in the middle of the road. He doesn't give a fuck. So that's 6 reasons why poly does not work. Let me know what you think in the comments. Try and be productive. So far, it hasn't been too toxic in there. And but again, this is my perspective. This is what I've experienced. And I don't think exceptions disprove the rule. If you can give a really good case, again, this is where the magic happens. I made a position. If someone can make a good case for the other side, it's usually somewhere in the middle, right? And that's the beauty of arguing. That's why I like to do it. That's why I like to try and find truth. So please, give me your genuine reasons. I'm wrong, I'm right. What you might want to see in the next video if you enjoyed this topic. And if you want to support me, just keep watching, comment, whatever. Do some stuff. Click some buttons. I'd appreciate it. And that's going to be the end of this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.